Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner, my co-host, the moderator, Daniel Hernandez over at Compass Real Estate in Coconut Grove. He does single-family houses and condos. What's going on, Daniel? We made it through the winter. Now we got the heat, the humidity, and the hurricane warnings.
Yes, my favorite time of year. Market might slow down or not. Historically, we've actually had our busiest month has been July for the last few years. So there's still transactions to be done. There's still things to do. There's still, as Peter likes to say, realtors' time to waste. Just please don't waste mine. And I want to jump into it. We got a lot to talk about today, Peter. Got a great show for you folks. If you've never joined us before, this is Buy, Sell, Hold. Bottom left of your screen, if you're looking at us on YouTube or Substack, if you're looking on your little phone, right in the middle, that's what we call the rundown. And that's a series of topics that Peter and I toss around back and forth as the week goes on. On Fridays, we settle on them, we talk about them, and if we agree with each statement, we buy. If we don't agree, we sell. If we hold, that just means, hey, we don't have enough information and we're not going to buy or sell. We're just going to sit back, eat our popcorn, and have a gay old time. Not gay like that. I'm not like, whoa, you know what I mean. Anyway, Peter, want to jump right into it. Key Biscayne's drain game is weak. So I want to give everybody a little bit of context on what's going on here. So last week, or the last couple of weeks, Village of Key Biscayne voted unanimously 7-0 to scrap their version of the Big Dig. AECOM, which is a big infrastructure designer, developer, they build interstates and airports and drainage projects, which is something that has become quite popular here in terms of climate mitigation. We have a lot of flooding, so somebody's got to design and build seawalls and pumps. You know, if you go into Sunset Harbor along Miami Beach, they try to beautify them by putting plants and stuff, but in the middle of a lot of streets, there are these giant pumps that are, well, pumping rainwater and stormwater. And where does that water go? A lot of times it goes into the bay. And that's what Key Biscayne paid a design firm, AECOM, to figure out how to do. So they spent $8 million on this, and it was going to be close to a $100 million project. And what this was going to do is take rainwater from Key Biscayne, because if it rains for like more than an hour on Key Biscayne, you're under an inch or inches or maybe even a foot of water. I've been on Key Biscayne and you see Teslas stalled and Porsches, you know, with water up to their doors. Well, Key Biscayne scrapped this whole plan, and now they want to go back to pumping water down deep into the earth. And why is this a problem? I'll tell you. Because Miami Beach already did this and it failed spectacularly. And this all boils down to, the main pushback was some opposition on Key Biscayne. They didn't want to have to cut down several hundred trees. I think it was 500 trees, a lot of them palms, to put these pumps in. And I get it. Palms and trees. Why is Coral Gables so beautiful? Because we have tree canopies. It's shady, but the alternative is it's going to flood. And as the years go on, it's going to flood more, because that's what science tells us, and we believe in science here, not angels. And so without an adequate pumping system, without an adequate remediation, you're going to start seeing more and more flooding on Key Biscayne. Now, the folks that they hired to come up with this alternative plan say, no, we can just, what effectively is digging a deep hole, and like, you know what a French drain is, Peter?
No. Tell me.
So a French drain is like when you dig a hole, you fill it with rocks, and then the rocks create surface area for the water to sort of drain down into. Think about that, but on just like a crazy industrial scale. And that's all fine and good. It does seem like a good idea. I'm not an engineer by any means, but Miami Beach did this, and they say in their report, they explicitly state that stormwater injection wells are no longer viable due to a reduced ability to push water down against rising groundwater and tides. Engineering News Record reported the city's aha moment came when a king tide came in and just pushed the water back up through the wells in Sunset Harbor. How's that?
Key Biscayne, Key Biscayne, Key Biscayne. 15,000 people, 32% of the population's under the age of 18. This is the oasis. This is the enclave. This is the place, 58% foreign born, where people who want to live in and around Miami, they want some protection. They don't want to deal with the, what do they call them? The girlies, according to Miami New Times, over at Cotton Island or Brickell Key, whatever you want to call it. No, 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 no. They want their exclusive enclave. And if you want your exclusive enclave and you happen to pick an enclave, which is right up there where it floods, right over there next to your neighboring area, which is called Stiltsville. You know what they did in Stiltsville? They built everything on stilts in the middle of the bay because they know it floods. Key Biscayne people, maybe they didn't get the memo. I don't know. When the Mackle brothers, old man Mackles or the brothers Mackle, after World War II, they took over Key Biscayne. They started putting up these, I'm not going to call them shotgun shacks, but little houses on lots. And you know what happened? All of a sudden, Key Biscayne took off. And once it did, these little bedroom types of community, this bedroom community with these small little houses, they all got torn down. And the new investors maximized the lot, maximize it, maximum, more than Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon used to hang out with her, a guy called B.B. Rebozo, one of his good buddies, in and around that time when, you had things going on with that apartment complex called Watergate, but that's a different story. Key Biscayne's also where your boy, Al Pacino, when he was in Scarface, this was the home. This was one of the homes that was featured in it.
It just went on the market.
Yeah, well, like $250 million or something?
$38 million.
So if you look at Key Biscayne, you look at Census Bureau data, what I will tell you, the median price, I think, is what the Census Bureau is calling. Let me give you the exact figure here. $1.6 million, the median value, 2% property tax. Let's run those numbers. The point I'm making is they got plenty of cash to piss away on some plan that somebody's brother-in-law or sister or mistress got, and then lo and behold, they said, yeah, let's just kind of put it aside. Key Biscayne is the same town that got sued by the Independent, which is a community-based publication. Yeah. You know what they got sued for? They don't want to share information. They wanted to keep it quiet. They didn't want word to get out. This is basically an enclave, 15,000 people, 32%, 31% is under the age of 18. They think that what they have is gold, and if they want to keep the gold, they're going to need to polish it, and they're needing to maintain it, and they're going to raise their property taxes in order to do this. But let me tell you what, every single thing they do, and I'm not a scientist, and I am not in RFK's camp either. What I will tell you, though, you're not going to stop the water. It's not going to stop. So you guys can play whatever games you want, but it's not going to change. You have to deal with it. Raise it up like your neighbors in Stiltsville.
And I mean, if you build new construction on Key Biscayne, the building code, you got to walk up like 16 stairs just to get to the first floor, and that's all fine and good, but you still got to get to your house, right? You got to drive in your car to your house, and when you get one of these torrential downpours, and we've had a few over the last few years, where you go on Instagram and the Olean Dades, and you see these cars literally underwater, and I'm not picking on Key Biscayne. This happens throughout the county. This happens on Miami Beach. This happens on Brickell Avenue. This happens on Biscayne. This happens in Coconut Grove too, guys. What I think is the folly here, though, is that so Key Biscayne started this process many years ago. They had experts come in. They had studies. They had everything. They were at the finish line. They went to the state. So the state has what they call, I put it down here in my notes, they have the state revolving fund for water infrastructure loans. And so it's a fund that municipalities can apply to get funds for climate resilience projects. So they went through the bureaucratic funding process to get this done. They got the loans, they had the money, and now that they decided to go with an alternative plan, that money's no good for any other plan than the one that they already picked. So they got to go back to the drawing board. They basically took this $8 million binder that they paid for and lit it aflame, and now they're angling for a project that another municipality, a bigger municipality that has arguably larger flooding problems, has said very publicly, guys, That doesn't work. It's like the guy out in the sticks when the Ford Model T came through, and he was like, "Nah, we're gonna stick with these horses and carriages." It's the same thing. I get it. I get it. I love trees more than the next guy, just as much as the next guy. But what's the alternative? Is you being underwater.
Federated, let me get this right, Federated States of Micronesia.
I've heard of it.
It's over there in the Pacific. And you know what's happening? These things are getting wiped out. Why? Because of global sea level rise. Key Biscayne, if you want to know what to do with your property and all you owners who have got $1.5, $1.6 million valuations, you need to pay attention to what's going on in Micronesia. And what's going on is these guys are trying to figure out a way to kind of work around it. Whatever you're doing, it's not going to hold back the water. We all know that. If anybody sees any projections about flood zones, Miami Beach, who's to say? Brickell Avenue, who's to say? You don't know what's going on here. Whatever you're going to do, why don't you start to take an approach that whatever we got, we need to enjoy it today, because fast forward 50 years, who's to say what happens despite what people are telling us the science is related to or not related to rising sea levels. I think this is a losing proposition. I think they're on the wrong side of the trade. I think they need to bring in some guys from and women from Holland. Bring in the Dutch. They're good partiers.
The whole country
so
was built on top of a bog. I think that's a fantastic idea. But they don't have any more money to pay for it because they already paid these guys $8 million.
$1.6 million a home is the median value, 2%. You know what? Jack that property tax up to 3%. Make it 4%. They got plenty of money. You got 15,000 people. This is the same group that was bitching and moaning about doing some extension on the Rickenbacker because they didn't want the traffic. This is the group that didn't like having the, whatever it's called today, the tennis, used to be Lipton. It was the NASDAQ. It was the
They
Ericsson.
just call it the Miami Open because nobody can sponsor it now.
Now the Miami Open. No, this is an entitled little enclave that they want to do things the way they want to do it, and then somehow they want sympathy. Good for them. They picked the wrong person to do the study, or they didn't like the results of the study, so they're going to go out and they're going to shop for another study. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. You bought onto an island in a climate where the seas are rising, and if you expect anything else, it's your mistake.
I'm buying that Key Biscayne's drain game is weak.
Oh, yeah. No, I would be a buy as well.
If you build it, the kids will come. And we're not talking about baseball fields either. Peter. That was just like a total tongue twister. Wall Street Journal piece written by, I haven't met you yet, Deborah, but I got introduced to you. Deborah Acosta authored this piece. In Florida, billionaires open their schools. So there's a trend here happening, and we've talked about this. We talked about this with my former social studies teacher, Mr. Josh Dallenbert. Hi, Josh. Doesn't matter how much money you have, we do not have enough private school capacity to fill with recent migrated billionaires' kids. You can have all the money in the world. You can have the biggest house in Coconut Grove. It doesn't guarantee your kid's spot in Ransom or Carrollton or St. Stephen's or one of these schools. So they've taken it upon themselves to build schools. And some of these schools, they're not all in Dade. Billionaire Jeff Green opened one up in West Palm Beach. Stephen Ross of the related Ross companies, they opened one in Wellington, not up in Delaware, but I'm talking about in West Palm Beach. And so there's all of these schools that are opening to service all of these really, really wealthy people. And I pulled the numbers, the migration numbers, even though we do have outward migration out of Dade, the people that are coming in here, you know what the median income of those people are, Peter? About $170,000 a year. So these are people who are moving here with cash, but they're also moving here with kids. So imagine if you're Ken Billions and you're trying to convince, or you're trying to order, or you're trying to pay an executive, a really, really smart, educated guy to come move here, but he's got a couple of rugrats who he wants to get an amazing education, and you know the public school system here isn't the best, so he wants to put him in private school. But he can't. The kids can't get in. Not because they're not smart, because there's just no spots. So I took a look at it, and it's somewhere here in my notes. Just so many screens here. Where's Joshua when we need him, right? We love Joshua.
Exactly.
So the schools in question here, we got the Green School up in West Palm Beach. He opened that In 2016, he actually took over a dilapidated car dealership, made it into a school. A lot of these schools that they're building are, they're legally nonprofits. So is Gulliver, so is Ransom. But you need to attract teachers, so you need to pay them enough that they can live. And as we talked about in previous shows, the affordability thing here is a real thing. So a private school teacher is maybe making $80,000, $90,000, $95,000 a year. So it's just within that average median income. And then the green school, Wingrove Academy, that's the Ross one. You got one in Miami Beach called Base Camp 305. Don't love the name, but John D. Marshall, who's a billionaire, of course, backed that one. And then you got the WeWork guys, Adam and Rebecca Newman. They knocked down that church over in El Portal to open Soulful. It's not spelled like soulful because they're tech bros. It's like SOFL or something like that. But all of these folks are building schools to sort of fill that need, and there is a tremendous need. Uh-oh, I see that face, Pete.
All right, so your boy Larry Page from Google, he's got 2 kids.
My boy.
Old man Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, he's got a pair of kids as well. I don't know how many Jared and Ivanka, I don't know how many kids they have, but I mean, don't you sort of see how it coincides? You have these certain groups coming in, and then all of a sudden they have kids, they need to put them in school, and all of a sudden they move forward. I don't know if old man Ken Griffin, I don't know if he has any kids or not, but it's just kind of interesting how this plays out. At the same time, Broward County, they're talking about shutting down schools. They are closing schools because there's nobody in there. And what we're seeing is a pivot. We're seeing what Josh had told us. Your former Josh, right? Your former grade school teacher?
Yeah, Dallenberg.
Yeah, it's what he had told us. There's simply a shift. It's going towards, I guess, I don't know if it's better quality. It is, it is what it is. But what I would tell you, and this is my thesis. My thesis is we always go through waves. We had the Cuban migration wave of the 50s, the 60s, again in the 80s. We had the Haitian wave. We had the Colombian wave. We had the Argentinian wave when you had the peso dollar devaluation. We had a Brazilian wave. We're having a wave right now of billionaires that are leaving blue states where they are being persecuted, prosecuted, whatever you want to call it, and they're all moving
taxed.
Here. In the
we're saying taxed. They're being taxed.
But basically what they want to do is they want to set up shop. They want to set up shop. They need their certain creature comforts that maybe they're not finding here thus far, but they were able to find it elsewhere. Now here's the risk. Are they going to stick around? Are they going to stay? Are they here for good, or are they going to pull the usual? Like I said, you got to be here 3 years. First year, you party like a rock star. Second year, you get serious. Third year, if you haven't gotten outside of the whole social scene, you're either going home to rehab or you're going to prison. Let's see if these people stick around 3 years. And by the way, a lot of people coming to Florida because of what's going on with the current presidential administration, the power structure. Once that power structure and the Mar-a-Lago effect is what I would call it up in West Palm Beach, once it sort of dissipates, let's see if these people still want to be here. I don't see Mark Zuckerberg fitting in here very well. Maybe he spent some time here because remember, Facebook was originally incorporated here.
Deering Bay.
Incorporated in Deering Bay. Maybe these people stick around. I don't see them staying unless they get long in a tooth like Jeff Bezos and they're simply retiring. But I don't see the younger ones who still got a little bit more fight left in them. I don't really see them sticking around here.
But what about
what Peter, they want?
I'm going to push back on that. What about all the people that are in their orbit? Like, yeah, okay, Mark Zuckerberg's one guy, but there's got to be hundreds of families that follow him here, and they got kids. So, I mean, and in order for them to really come here, those schools have to be here. It's like you can't put the cart before the horse. The school has to be there. You can't wait 3 or 4 years for a school to get built while you're trying to figure it out.
Well, what I will tell you is I would tell you about a conversation I had with somebody who worked for United Nations. This is a while back, and the person from United Nations was telling me how they would position, how large corporations would position people. And one of the things they found is they never put a married couple in Miami because there were going to be too many, let's call it distractions. So typically the type of...
What do you mean by that, Peter?
Just too many distractions in the marriage and the family, and it didn't necessarily play out like it would maybe like a place like St. Louis or a place like maybe Silicon. Well, I don't know about Silicon Valley, but something like that. So this is something you got to factor in. I don't know how many of the people are going to be, actually coming here. I would imagine they're going to put them in some back office somewhere. Look at how banks do it. Banks will set up an operation on Brickell Avenue. They'll set it up in the Gables, and you know where the real work gets done?
Plantation.
It gets done in Miami Lakes. It's in Miami Lakes. They don't want to bring out the back office people. So while you might have a couple fat cats moving in here, they want them to prance around, show off their watch, talk about how popular and how successful they are. The reality is they're not all going to come. Look at the guys at Palantir. They supposedly came to Miami. They're up in Aventura.
Well,
They're
apparently
nowhere
they don't really
close.
need employees because it's just going to be AI.
Yeah, but I stand by it. Our current wave is billionaires who are fleeing blue states because of persecution, prosecution, taxation. You call it whatever you want to call it, and they're setting up shop here, and we'll see if they stick around.
If you build it, the kids will come. I'm buying. I'm bullish on this. Hold on, I'm gonna give you some more context. There's a real estate angle here because this is buy, sell, hold, and there's a real estate angle about everything. Steve Ross, smart guy, not really high in my book because he pissed off for West Palm Beach, and we work in Miami-Dade County over here. But his whole school thing, and I was looking at it, it's interesting. It's like a real estate play. So that Wingrove Academy, it's kind of like the new stadium, NU, the fintech. It's also new, NEW. But that whole Melreese development, yeah, there's a soccer stadium on it, but it's a commercial real estate development. There's no fooling me here. That Wingrove Academy, he spent $46 million on the land. He built it, but it also has a 180-room hotel, 215 residences, and another 175,000 square feet of retail and restaurants. So, like, you put an elite school, property values everywhere are going to go up because that's, your kids are your commute. That's always been my thesis. And then if Stephen Ross is doing it, then Steve Ross stamp of approval. I think there's going to be a wave of this stuff happening. Either it's planned already or they're under construction, but we need capacity for these kids. And the billionaires have proved that they'll pay for it. That Jeff Green school that's only 10 years old, they charge something like $60,000 a year in tuition.
See, now I got to be a sell on the question.
Okay.
Because I think you're putting the horse before the cart.
The horse does go before the cart.
Well, but in this scenario, I think what it is how did you phrase it? If you build it, the kids will come.
If you build it, the kids will come.
Yes,
I think fill up the schools.
Yeah, but I think if the kids are there, they're going to build it. That's really what they're doing. I don't think this is made for everybody. I think this is more so some sort of carve out where a certain select few are going to be able to go there, and then they're going to turn around. They're going to look for real estate to sort of kind of make it happen. I don't think this is driven by demand. I think this is driven by personal preference. So I would have to be a sell on that.
All right, I'm buying. You're selling, and that's what we do. I think that was the whole premise of the show, Peter. Hey, Big 5-0, almost as old as Peter over here. Another one.
You got 5 years to go until that.
Another one, as DJ Khaled would say. I did that really poorly. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not a rapper. I work in real estate. Another one on Brickell Key. Another what, Peter? It's another condo termination. Not to say that there have been previous condo terminations on Brickell Key. This would actually be the first condo termination on Brickell Key because the Mandarin wasn't a termination. That was wholly owned by Swire, who I still believe is developing that Mandarin Oriental site. You know, that big building that just imploded. But the St. Louis, what do we say? St. Louis?
Yeah, St. Louis. Yep.
The St. Louis. So if you ask anybody on Brickell Key, probably except for the people who live there, their least favorite building on Brickell Key is going to be the St. Louis. Built in 95, about 130 something units. Word has come out. I don't know if somebody gave an interview over at the Perez organization related or at David Martin's Terra, but the rumor's out that they are in negotiations to terminate the St. Louis. That's an 80% threshold building, meaning that they only have to get 80% of the unit owners. Did the math, that's about 108 unit owners to agree to the termination. They're throwing numbers around $200 million or $1 to $1.5 million per unit. Peter, what are your thoughts here?
Why are they going through the complication? Just go to Swire. Swire's not going to put up the Mandarin. They cleared the site. They're looking for a JV partner. I am speculating. This is purely my opinion. They just blew out the guy who was running Swire. And the guy who was running Swire, he wasn't the one with the plan. He was the one there to liquidate everything. He just got pushed back to London. They now have a placeholder in there. How do you replace the leadership if you're going to go ahead and build a two-tower complex? If I were related and I were David Martin, I don't want to be either of them. If I were them, I'd go to Swire. I would look to JV. It's going to be a much easier path of resistance. Now that this story has come out, you know what those holdouts want? They don't want 1.5 a door. They're going to talk to the boys over at Biscayne 21. Boys at Biscayne 21, 8 or 10 of them, whatever they are, they held out. They got $68 million, and the developer's got to go ahead and they got to restore a building which has been gutted. No, the price has just gone up because somebody let this leak. Maybe it was somebody on the inside with the condo association. They don't want anything out. Or you also need to factor in there's another building that forever and ever and ever and ever and ever they tried to terminate called the Isola. Never happened. Why? Same problem. You have a problem here where you're trying to herd cats. Our rule is if you're going to terminate a building, you need less than 100 units. St. Louis has more than 100 units. Therefore, thumbs down. Not happening unless you open up that checkbook, unless you can sig some city inspectors on it or some insurance people on it and say the roof is bad and hit everybody with a big special assessment. I don't see it happening. I think they're going to try it. George Perez, David Martin, don't waste your time there. Go talk to the boys at Swire, the new guy.
What do you think they would have to buy that for?
The Mandarin.
The Mandarin.
Well, Perez doesn't really build anymore, as far as I've been told. I mean, his kids are running it now, but he's more. He brings like the intel. David Martin, I think, is the guy who's really, his people are really sort of swinging the hammers
everywhere.
Yeah. David Martin's everywhere, but David Martin, he goes forward in a lot of stuff. He had some success with that project right over there by the Freedom Park. But he also hasn't been able to get stuff over the finish line. Let's take a look at the Miami Herald site, the Genting site. Remember, $1 billion. Couldn't get that over the finish line. So it kind of goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The sales pitch could be of everybody on the St. Louis building is, listen, you want to go through the possible construction of the Mandarin? That thing is going to take 3, 4, 5 years. There's going to be guys swinging hammers. You're going to have the roach coaches pulling up, laying on that horn. Na 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 na. All the guys come down to get their coladas. They're smoking a cigarette. They're eating some ropa vieja. Day after day after day, they're going to be on the clock. Therefore, on the weekends when you're hanging out at the pool, guys are swinging hammers. You don't have the girlies, according to the Miami New Times, walking around anymore because all the construction, the debris, the pigeons, the number of flat tires you're going to get, and what's going to happen when they start building and what's going to happen to the structures next door. So I can see how the related group and David Martin are going to kind of make this case. But if I'm somebody and I own in St. Louis, my price just went up by 50%.
50%. So yeah, 1 million to 1.5. That's it? Come on, Peter. No, I would twist the screws on a little more.
No. I thought you said 1 to 1.5. No, I that thing's got to be north of 2. Definitely north of 2 million. Because what you got to do is you got to figure out how many units can you put up there. What is the Mandarin supposedly selling at? Take the price there, put another 20%.
They just did those 2 penthouses. I think it comes out to about $6,300 a foot.
6,300. Okay, so put an extra 20 on top of that. And factor that in for what your unit will represent as part of their overall complex. That's what the right price is. It's not what, we got $1 million a psychological number. No. This is the worst thing.
If they're already negotiating with 80% of the build, I mean, it's not Biscayne 21. Biscayne 21 was 100% building. That's why those holdouts had a legal leg to stand on. This is an 80% building. So we could very much see a situation where 20% of those people, 135 minus 108, you can have 20 some odd unit owners get royally screwed. Just like what's happening. This is the same thing that's happening in all these trailer parks around town. The Herald did a big piece about the one in Little Havana. There was the one out in Sweetwater. These are all the people who didn't take the money when it was offered. And then, now you just got to take what you got. You're going to take what I'm going to give you. And so we could see a situation like this. Good, bad.
Remember. Briny Breeze. Briny Breeze was this community up in Delray Beach, just south of Mar-a-Lago. And everybody got offered $1 million a door. They said it was a trailer park right there on the barrier island, fronting the ocean. This little like unincorporated type of area, trailer park. They turned down $1 million. And you know what happened? The market crapped out. They waited too long shopping and the market crapped out. And then you know what happened? The prices sort of free fell. So the same thing can happen for these developers. If George Perez in the related group and as well as David Martin, you get a couple guys suing for some kind of cockamamie idea. You run out the clock on them. The cycle changes. Now, can you still do with it? I mean, take a look at what Related's doing over there, where they have the baccarat Baccarat, and a Viceroy. That was supposed to be three towers. They were all supposed to be Baccarat. Conditions changed, market conditions changed. Now you got one Baccarat, you got a Viceroy, and a Capitol Grill, fortunately, is still standing. I'm just saying
Love it.
timing is everything. So it only takes a couple squeaky wheels to jam things up and drag it on and ask for an extension. And before you know it, you miss the window. So this is something they really need to factor in. So even though the condo association rules could do what they do, doesn't mean people aren't going to sue for whatever cockamamie reason.
Buy, sell, hold. Another one on Brickell Key. Another one.
I'd be a hold.
You're a hold.
Yes.
I'm gonna be a hold too. I want to see how this all plays out. I thought it was kind of interesting how the Real Deal reported on it. Maybe somebody leaked it inadvertently, and then what does the Real Deal do? Call the Perez and David Martin's offices and says, hey, would you like to comment on this? Because why would you want this news out there if you're trying to
Higher
negotiate
price.
with these condo owners, right? Exactly.
Higher price. Speaking of that, hey, old man Perez, David Martin, talk to Squire about the office space. Who needs office space on Brickell Key? Knock those two things down. Why don't you build it up over there? You don't need the St. Louis. St. Louis is way too much brain damage. Hitting your head against the wall trying to herd all these cats, getting them all together. Go after the office space. Squire's proven they want to sell everything. Hit up Swire. That would be my recommendation.
So buy the Mandarin, buy the office tower, just get Swire out of town.
Are they still here? What do they have? They have two pieces of dirt. One of them's got a lot of debris on it. What else do they own?
You know, one of those pieces of debris went through the lobby of the St. Louis and broke a mirror, missed a guy.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's CBS or ABC. They interviewed somebody at the HOA over there. One of those little rock, like about the size of a softball, went flying through the lobby door like a piece of debris, like we're over in the GCC countries, and smashed into a mirror. I mean, we're lucky nobody got hurt, or they'd be having a very different conversation right now.
Wow. Yeah, you have a very different conversation. Interesting. Interesting.
All right, I'm holding with you, Peter. Well, speaking of debris, Aston Martin, they build good cars, no? Build great cars.
That would
Buildings?
be the only car. If I were ever to get a car, that'd be the only car I'd get.
Oh, Peter, are you holding back on me? You want to buy me one too?
I'm just saying that would be the only car. I haven't had a car since 13. If I were to come out, if I'd get off, was it off the wagon, on the wagon, whatever. If I got a
Get
car, that
back
would
on
be
the
the only
wagon,
car.
fell off the wagon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Aston Martin builds great cars, and I need to say something. I've toured that building. It's a nice building. Like I'd live there, even especially with the market discounts we're getting, right, Peter? Those market discounts are holding pretty strong. What are we, 25% since last season, year ago today?
Sell, sell, sell.
So why are we talking about it? Well, because it's 558 litigation time. For anybody playing the home game, 558 litigation was a statute, I think, passed back in 2003, and this was a way for developers and HOAs to come together and come to terms with construction defects, because things happen. These are multi-$100 million projects, and so what this does is it prevents HOAs from outright suing a developer because a balcony's cracking or something's wrong with the lobby or something's wrong with this and that. So in 558 litigation, and Peter and I are not lawyers, I got to say, but you effectively send a naughtygram to a developer saying, I don't like bop, 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 bop. And then it gives them a period of time to cure those listed items in the punch list. And if they don't, or you can't come to some sort of resolution, then you can sue them into oblivion. And that's what's happening. And 558 litigation, it's fairly common, right? And there's insurance for it, and the insurers come in, and it's usually settled. But this is interesting because just back in February, you might be saying, hey, Danny, Peter, even you asked me, hey, what's changed since that last lawsuit? It's a different lawsuit. So back in February here on Buy, Sell, Hold, we talked about this lawsuit that was filed because the developer, his mother, and some affiliated companies allegedly made some sham vendor contracts upon delivering the building to the owners.
According to the lawsuit, right?
According to the lawsuit, I'm pulling this out of the lawsuit. that there were sham companies with the valet and the concierge and the cleaning services and all these things. And so the HOA, I think the amount was something like $5 million they were suing them for. So this is the same development group. And then with the 558 litigation, they bring the contractors into it. And I also need to mention that Aston Martin was pretty late in construction because I think a subcontractor went BK.
I don't know about that, and I don't like to use that word, but yeah, I will tell
No,
you.
this is all in public filing.
Yeah, but it was not delivered on time, and as we know, if you don't deliver a property on time, it can be an issue, which I'm sure our boys over at the 11 project are going to start to realize really quick because they're way behind schedule on those two towers. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not in the slightest. It's a discussion. That's what we're here to do. We're here to go back and forth. But look, you have one lawsuit that says, hey, this guy stole money, and then another lawsuit with the same guy in it saying, hey, you built a shitty product. That's not a good look. I'm not saying that the building isn't a nice building. It's a beautiful building, and 558 litigation is entirely normal. Well, it's not supposed to happen, but we see it a lot here. But when you see two lawsuits about two separate things with the same people embroiled in it, and they've allegedly done some things, that's a red flag.
Daniel, is it the same law firm that filed both lawsuits? You know?
I don't think so. I think the HOA president is representing the HOA because he's a lawyer. Okay. I don't know what the law firm is that filed this 558 litigation suit.
Yeah, because back in the day, the cliche was, let's not litigate this in the court of public opinion. And that's really what's going on here. It sounds to me like the plaintiff is in a tough spot, and therefore they're trying to shine some lights on it. They're trying to bring some attention to it, hoping that they can sort of force the developer to bend the knee and start writing some checks and start doing some stuff. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you probably got a bunch of wealthy people who bought into a project that was promised to be delivered at a certain moment in time.
With a helipad.
Once the product was delivered, first time ever building here, by the way. What do I always say? You got to put up 3 before, the developers got street cred. So they're promised this idea. They signed a contract. They wait forever and ever and ever. Finally comes online. They miss the market. Some of the speculators thought they were going to get in and get out. Let me buy a pair of them. I'll make the money on the retrade. Yeah, I'll apply it towards the first one. I'm good. You missed the market. And then if there's construction defects, oh my gosh, this is suddenly going to push it over the edge. So the game of chicken that they're playing, I would argue the plaintiff in the building is they are coming out publicly hoping they can shame the developer into bending the knee and cutting a deal, or the insurance company, or whatever it's going to be. But at the same time, they're taking severe reputational damage because it gives loudmouths like me the ability to use public record and start talking about all the shenanigans that this developer did. His family owns grocery stores in Argentina and he's building condos here, according to the lawsuit, blah, 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 blah. This is a long-term mistake. Developer, Mr. Cato, I think is his name. I don't know you. Write him a check. Make it go away. You're damaging your reputation. You're going to be going back like with Mr. Faina. He came here. He put up a project. He crapped out. He went back.
There was 558 litigation with him too.
But Faina's finally back. What I'm saying is just shut your mouth. Take your beating. Sell more stuff in Argentina through the grocery stores. Put it on the board. You don't hear the gentleman Dorinan, right? The one who did the Masoni, the Una. He's not out there bitching and moaning. So, just forget the confidence, forget all that, forget the ego, write him a check, make it go away, because you are giving fodder to people like us who can take public records and we can bark about it over and over and over. And now you're always going to be questioned about this type of stuff. The quality of construction, what kind of, deals are you cutting on the sidelines? Cronyism. This is the last thing you want as a developer, especially a newbie. You might be a rock star back in Argentina, but dude, you got no track record here. And as a result, you're going to be viewed that way. So my advice to you, write a check. And if you want to hire me and Daniel for consulting, give us a call. We'll go to lunch. Maybe we'll invite Ken Billions over, and the 4 of us can sit around and talk.
I don't know about that. I don't know if Ken's going to come with us. Buy, sell, hold. Aston Martin builds a great car. I think they build a great car. I've never owned one. I'm not really sure what the maintenance schedule is, but I'd like to romanticize about it and say buy.
Pound the table on Aston Martin building a good car.
Pound the table. Ken Billions is coming on BSH. No, he's not. Guys, Ralph, I'm sorry. Ralph probably got really excited when he saw this at the bottom of the rundown. Nobody's called us about this. The reason why I put that in the rundown was not to bamboozle all of you, but was to plead to Ken, or one of your associates who's watching. Give Peter and I a call. We've been asking. I mean, at this point, it's getting kind of rude. Just take us out to lunch. We don't have to go to Capitol Grill. In fact, Peter only eats at Flanagan's and then that Middle Eastern market over there on Coral Way. I got him at Versailles. I got him at Versailles a few weeks ago, but we're a very cheap date, and we know a thing or two about what's going on. But since we haven't talked about you much in the last few weeks, because we've had some wonderful guests. We had Dr. Marvin Dunn last week. We had Benji Power. That was so much fun. What a gentleman. We had Benji Power from Preceded Development talking to us about affordable housing. You can come on, talk about your big office building, because that's what I'm going to talk about today. An office building it is. Peter, they've eliminated the 212 key hotel plan from the office building. That was representative of about 400,000 square feet of space. So now, Kenny boy, he's all in. He is way up in my book. Stephen Ross, you're a smart guy, but you're way down. We live in Miami-Dade, and Miami is the future of South Florida. Forget about Broward. Forget about Palm Beach. This is where it's happening. And Ken, man, I can't wait to have lunch with you, man. So he's going to put up this office tower. It's going to have 1 million square feet of office space. Right now, Citadel and the affiliated security company, they got something like 130,000 square feet. And Vlad Dornan's Oko Tower, the one 830 Brickell over there, the super swanky new office building. So once Ken builds this, they're out of there. They're in this. How much space are they going to take? I don't know. How many employees does Citadel have? At least they got to have at least a couple thousand, huh?
Ooh, good question. But I doubt that they would house them on Brickell Drive. I doubt.
No, I mean, listen. Everything that I've read about this, every interview, and I've watched them all. I've read all about it. He can lose money here. He might lose money here. So hell, Citadel could take up the whole entire building for all he cares. Will they take up the penthouse floors, or he's going to relegate his group to the bottom floors, which are going to be more cheaper in an office tower? I don't know. But him removing the hotel component from this project is really telling on how he views the future of the market. And I mean, remember, Peter,
is it?
I think it's telling on how he views it. I mean, he's going to put up this office tower on the heels of Santander building that headquarters across the street, which, as nice as it's going to be, that's going to be the value play in this submarket because Ken Billions' project is on the water. So if Ken Billions is, what is he going to try to lease it for? $250 a foot? If Santander's leasing for $200 a foot, he's got to go higher in price.
Ken, listen, if I could offer advice, if you dead set on making it all office, make it office condos. You're going to have a lot of people going to be around you. Like when you ever see the big fish swimming or the shark and you got all these little ones trying to pick up the crumbs. Ken, make it an office condo. That's the only way you're really going to deliver. Everybody's going to promise you a bill of goods down here. At the end of the day, they're not showing up. They're not spending the money. They'll do something for the time being. You'll see a change in the economy, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, wow, this is what Carl Fisher was talking about. Oh, wow, this is what George Merrick was talking about. Oh, wow, this is what Addison Meisner was talking about. Ken, don't fall for it. They're telling you. I'm telling you, do the opposite. If you dead set on building an office, sell the units to some of these people who are supposedly coming up. And by the way, I would take the Santander project, by the way. I think Santander has a better connection to what's going on geographically, culturally in South Florida than Citadel does. Citadel is an outpost for Wall Street. Now, Wall Street, they're talking about the stock exchange in Texas and stuff like that. Well, where the hell's Miami tied into this? None of it kind of makes sense. Santander makes all the sense in the world. You also have the cultural affinity going back from way back in the day with the conquistadors and Latin America and how everybody claims they're from Spain, yada, yada, yada. Ken Griffin's coming in here and, he's going to try to put this together. I think, he hasn't made good decisions thus far, is what I would say in terms of pricing on his real estate. His original site, that was a Brazilian developer who was going to try to put up a condo there way, way, way back in the day. And then Mr. Hollow, before he passed, he bought that site. He was going to put up condos.
Legend.
How the hell do you take a condo site and you turn it into an office? I'll tell you how. You hybrid it. Sell office condos to all these people who want to lick your boots. That's how they can hobnob with you. Sell them condos. Sell them the same price as what the Perez's are getting on St. Regis. Sell them the same price as what you're getting over at the 11. It's named after a cabaret. Don't call it a strip joint. Ken, that's what you need to do. Don't waste your time leasing office space. You don't want to do that. Sell them. Get into the game. Understand the game down here.
I like that idea. Are office condos particularly prevalent in Brickell?
There are a few, but what I would just say, generally speaking, in the era we're in, which is a transactional type of relationship with everybody coming from the White House down, if people want to be around you and they want to show support, sell them a condo. This is what Miami Condo developers have been doing forever and ever and ever. That's what he's got to do. So if he is going in all office, and by the way, I don't know that he's got so much demand personally. Remember, old man Ross, Stephen Ross, Stephen, we're going to see how your draft went with the Dolphins. Remember, he owns the Dolphins. We'll sort of see. Hopefully, you're going in the right direction this time, because last couple of years it sounded good on paper, but it didn't really work out. But Stephen Ross tried to put up an office building. He was competing against Ken Billions. Stephen Ross throws in the towel. Swire dumps the dirt. It goes to the Mello Group, who I've done consulting for. And now Ken Billions, he's suddenly, maybe because we were up his ass about he's talking,
moving dirt.
He's talking.
Or pushing dirt. I don't know what there's stuff. They put a fence.
But didn't Ken Griffin, who's now partnering with Stephen Ross and trying to promote the whole Wall Street South thing up to the New Yorkers to make it the Latin, the capital of financial capital of the country, isn't Stephen Ross involved with the construction of Ken Griffin's site? I know the contractor's out of Tampa, but I thought I read something somewhere.
Out of Tampa.
Yeah, but I read something somewhere yesterday, I want to say, where Stephen Ross's related companies, not to be related to Old Man Perez's related group, was somehow involved with the construction. It was almost like a hybrid. Like they threw in the towel. Ross threw in the towel on Swire's site at 8th and Brickell, and he somehow got involved with this. But how do you build a straight up office building? It doesn't. And I don't know anything about office buildings, but if the money's on the table and people want to be around you, take it from them. You're already taking a half a penny off of every trade that's going through the the stock exchange with your market maker status. Why not take their money from this office space?
That's interesting. I never thought about that as a condo office. But, and again, I don't know anything about office either. I'm a resi guy. But,
But why does he get rid of a hotel? Dude, we are the gateway to Latin America. We got 1,000 people a day coming to Florida.
It's the same reason why Ricardo Dunin got rid of the hotel. You got to be crazy to be opening a hotel right now with all the Airbnb short-term rental stuff coming up online. Why are you going to open a hotel?
This is Ken Billions. They paid $520 million just a little bit up the road. $520 million, and that supposedly was a great value that everybody said. You're going to tell me you can't support a hotel? Dude, bring in like a Howard Johnson. Bring in one of those, and if it doesn't work out, then, yeah. What about a youth hostel? Oh no, well, let's just call it a hostel. In today's era, you don't want to talk about
youth hostel. Come on,
make it a hostel. Do something like that. Make it a you know what they could do? Bring in Adam Newman with WeWork. Have him buy some of your office space. He could start up a new WeWork with that office space. There's all kinds of opportunities here.
I wonder if they'll be stringent with the tenant selection there. Like, will it be, like in a lot of these marina office complexes, they only want maritime companies in there. Will he only want financial services companies in this building? Will he be able to do that? Will there be enough demand to gatekeep this ultra luxury office building?
Well, but is that what he wants to do, or would he?
I don't know. No. I'm just speculating here, because if you're trying to push this whole Wall Street of the South narrative, then hey, you got to work in finance to be in my building. If you want to be in my orbit, I don't know. Just a thought. Buy, sell, hold. What? Tell me, Peter. You're speechless? It
If I'm
must be
Ken
Friday.
Billions, I would also look at trading. Ken, tell you what, trade the site you got, trade it over with the Cipriani boys, where Messi's supposedly buying his condos. Do a trade. You got an waterfront site. Why are you building why are you wasting this beautiful view for people going to the office? Nobody wants to be in the office. That's why we had Zoom. That's why we had work from home. Do a straight up trade. Take the Cipriani building, give them the dirt, and agree to something. You're building an office in the wrong place. You're not going to get what you need unless you sell them off one-offs. The condo that Cipriani's putting up with Lionel Messi, that should be on Biscayne Bay. And the
Mass capital.
office tower should be on South Miami Avenue.
Buy, sell, hold. Ken Billions is coming on BSH. I know, guys. I'm sorry. I deceived you, but I would like him to come, so I'm gonna buy.
Yeah, no, I would be a buy. I would be a buy.
All right, folks.
By the way, Daniel wants a listing. If you're going to office conduit, give him the listing.
Exclusive. Nobody else. I'm kidding. Hey, guys, this has been great. Let me give you back 10 minutes of your Friday afternoon. If you're driving home, drive safe. If you're already home, crack open a beer. If you're going out, take an Uber, or better yet, a Waymo if you can afford it. Everything is great. Everything is fun. Ken Billions, give us a call for lunch. Everybody else, you have a good weekend, and we will see you next Friday.